And welcome back. This is becoming a bigger and bigger issue for home buyers right now. So for example, according to Black Knight, housing inventory this March fell for the sixth consecutive month, falling to the lowest levels going back to April of 2022. And because of this decrease in the number of houses for sale, and also couple that with a small increase in demand, home prices rose this March. Black Knight also says here that home prices rose on a seasonally adjusted basis in March, a gain of 0.45%, the third consecutive month of increases in the US here. Meanwhile, 92% of the markets they actually looked at saw prices increase in the month compared to February this year. And one of the main reasons for this is this right here. 30% fewer new listings came on the market this March compared to pre-pandemic levels. So approximately 30% fewer new listings compared to the same month for the average of 2017 to 2019. And this deficit of new listings is actually getting worse compared to pre-pandemic levels because this March, again, down by 30%, but this February, it was down by 27%. And in January, it decreased by 25%. So according to Andy Walden, who's one of the vice presidents of Black Knight, he stated the following. A modest bump in home buying demand ran headlong into falling housing inventory, leading to the third consecutive monthly increase in home prices after seeing a big pullback we saw in the second half of 2022. In fact, just 5 months ago, home prices were decreasing on a month-over-month basis in 92% of all US major markets. Now, fast forward to this March, it's entirely the opposite though, because 92% of the markets this March saw an increase in home prices compared to February. I mean, how wild is that? Approximately 5 months ago, 92% of the market's prices were going down. Now, fast forward to this March, 92% are actually going up compared to the previous month. However, having said that, Black Knight is reporting here that home prices have only increased by 1% year over year. However, having said that, Black Knight is reporting that home prices compared to 1 year ago are likely to drop to 0% this April. And that, of course, is because prices were absolutely skyrocketing through June last year, whereas this year, prices are increasing by a very small amount. Therefore, Black Knight is predicting we're going to get to 0% growth this April. That said, though, low inventory levels, historically speaking, will limit just how low that metric will fall in the coming months. So in other words, because we have a lack of houses for sale, historically speaking, this is actually causing the decrease in prices we have been seeing year over year to not be as great as they once were just a few months ago. They also reported that home sales increased for the second consecutive month this March, like we normally do each and every year, but still roughly 13% below the pre-pandemic average. So you can see that when looking at this blue line right here, this blue line is home sales seasonally adjusted here, going back to 2005. So the current levels right now, which is approximately 275,000, when looking at pre-pandemic levels, which is right over here, we're at the lowest levels going back to approximately 2016. Also, in regards to housing inventory, that's this green line right here. So right now we have approximately 700,000 houses for sale, seasonally adjusted. When looking at pre-pandemic levels back in 2019 through 2016, for example, we had approximately 1.5 million houses for sale. Now we have approximately 700,000. Also, the current levels we have right now is well below 2005. Back in 2005, we had approximately 900,000 houses for sale. Now we have approximately 700,000. Now, part of the reason why housing inventory has decreased for 6 consecutive months, falling to the lowest levels going back to April of 2022, is this right here. This is a percent difference from the 2017 through 2019 same month average. So for example, this March, we're down 30% compared to March 2017 to March of 2019. The average is going back to pre-pandemic levels during that same month, down by 30% in the number of new listings. In fact, for 15 consecutive months, we've had fewer new listings compared to the pre-pandemic average in 2017 through 2019. Additionally, this is something I actually just noticed as well, because the differences between pre-pandemic levels has actually gotten worse and worse for 6 consecutive months going back to October of 2022. That's because in October last year, the difference was approximately 15% and has decreased even more every single month. Now we're down by 30%. On top of this, this is fairly widespread as well. This lack of houses for sale and this huge decrease of new listings. And this is becoming a big problem nationwide. I'm not just talking about one metro in the US here, because Redfin says here that only 3 of the top 100 markets, which is Las Vegas, Austin, and Ogden, Utah, have more houses for sale compared to pre-pandemic levels. However, having said that, they still have less than 3% above 2017 to 2019 inventory levels. On the flip side of this, though, this means that approximately 97% of the 100 largest metros have fewer new listings compared to 2017 to 2019's averages. And that, my friend, is a big problem, especially if you're looking to buy a house this year. And because we saw a slight bump of demand this March, and of course, due to the fact we have a lack of homes for sale, home prices increased by 0.4% or 0.45% in March on a seasonally adjusted basis, slightly stronger than the revised 0.43% increase we saw in February compared to January this year. Now, here's a graphic showing the percent increases in home prices based on Black Knight's Home Price Index, which is kind of laughable here because we're all talking about an increase, but only by a gain of 0.45%, which on an annualized basis, that's a gain of 5% over the next 12 months here. Not saying it's going to happen though, but on an annualized basis, only a gain of 5%. So this small increase in home prices, as you can see right there, is very small, especially when compared to the 1 month change here in dark blue, especially compared to 2020 through the first half of 2022. However, though, it's worth noting though, because during the second half of 2022, of course, we saw prices decreasing. And now for the past 3 months, we're seeing just the opposite. A small increase in prices, but not nearly at the same rate we saw back over the past couple of years. Also, as I noted at the beginning of this video here, just 5 months ago, home prices were down in 92% of the US markets, whereas this March, 92% are actually increasing on a seasonally adjusted basis here. So of course, what this means is that over the past 5 months, we've been seeing a complete reversal in home prices in the US. But again, having said that, we're not seeing anything like 2021 or 2022, but it's quite remarkable because we're not seeing this giant decrease in home prices like we saw at the end of last year. In fact, according to Black Knight, there's only 3 markets in the 50 most populous areas here in which prices are down on a month-over-month basis. That's Austin, Texas, a decrease of 0.7%. That's a decrease from February to March this year. Salt Lake City, Utah saw a decrease of 0.12%. And San Antonio, Texas saw a decrease of 0.07%. Whereas Phoenix and Dallas were relatively flat on a month-over-month basis. In contrast, the largest price gains occurred in the Midwest and the Northeast. Columbus, Ohio saw a gain of 1.1% compared to February this year. Hartford, Connecticut saw a gain of 1%. Cleveland, Ohio, as well as Cincinnati, Ohio saw a gain of around 1%. And Baltimore saw a gain of 0.9% as well. Those were the biggest increases in the US, along with Miami also saw a gain of 0.9%, which led the South. So big picture on a national level right here, there's only 3 markets in which prices have decreased. That's Salt Lake City, Utah, as well as Austin and San Antonio, Texas. In contrast, every other market saw a gain or was flat compared to last month on a seasonally adjusted basis. Now, when looking at home price changes compared to last year's peak, it's entirely different though, because you really can split up the United States in half here, because the Western states are seeing the biggest decreases in home prices compared to last year's peak, whereas the Midwest, for example, is reporting gains compared to last year's peak. And they say here that nearly 40% of the markets they track here, mainly in the Midwest and the Northeast, have returned to peak prices on a seasonally adjusted basis. An additional 6 markets are within 1% of last year's peak as well. That includes Orlando, Houston, as well as DC, for example. In contrast, prices in Austin, Texas, San Jose, California, San Francisco, Seattle, and Phoenix are still more than 10% off last year's levels. In addition, the deficit is actually growing in Austin, Texas, as well as Phoenix this March. And on a national level, prices are down by 1.7% from June 2022. Now here's a look at the cities in which prices have increased the most compared to 1 year ago. This is actually the first time we've been seeing single-digit increases in each of the 50 largest metros going back to June 2020. So every market here has recorded an increase of less than 10%. So Miami, Florida led the nation, a gain of 9.5% compared to March of 2022. After that was Hartford, Connecticut, and Kansas City, Missouri. Check that out, because in the number 3 spot, Kansas City, Missouri increased by 5.5%. After that was Cincinnati, Ohio, a gain of 5.2%. And rounding out the top 5 was Virginia Beach, a gain of 5%. Which is pretty crazy, right? Because Virginia, number 5 spot out of the 50 markets they look at, is at 5% gain, which is more or less half the gain they're seeing in Miami, Florida. It just shows how much home prices are increasing in Miami compared to other markets. Rounding out the top 10 here was Providence, Rhode Island, Orlando, Florida, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, as well as Richmond, Virginia. In contrast, the markets in which prices have decreased the most in the 50 biggest cities in the US, number 1 spot was San Jose, California, a decrease of 11.6% compared to March of 2022. That was followed by Austin, Texas, down by 11.2%, San Francisco down by 11.1%, Seattle down by 10.8%, Sacramento, California down by 8%. And then we had Phoenix, Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, Utah, San Diego, as well as Los Angeles. And of course, as you guys can tell right here, for the biggest decreases in the nation here, they were all located in the western states. So I'd love to hear from you guys. What's your biggest takeaway from today's video? My personal biggest takeaway is this right here. Inventory falling for the 6th consecutive month on a seasonally adjusted basis here, falling to the lowest levels we've had going back to April of 2022, and that's causing home prices to increase, and which is of course a very, very big problem for home buyers right now. Anyways, that's my biggest takeaway. What's yours? Hope you guys have an awesome day, and look forward to seeing you on the next video.